Happy Devils Easter Sunday. This is the Woo Report. The Woo Report. Episode 443 titled, Can the Devils Resurrect Themselves? Oh boy, happy Easter to all those celebrate. I'm your host, Sam Woo, streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. As the Devils get some help last night, yes, those Devils that don't help themselves but need help everywhere, as the month of March comes to a close on this happy Devils Easter Sunday. JoinOurCrew.com, yes, JoinOurCrew.com, and get the latest updates of where we're going to be at. Can't believe it, folks. Cannot believe it. That last night, I was very mad, actually, on Friday night. Let's start from there. Friday night. Devils have a 2-0 lead against the Buffalo Sabres. I'm thinking, all right, the mojo's going. Everything is going fine right now. All is well. Yeah, all right, you got put up maybe a couple more goals, and we can call it a day, and the Devils will be moving up in the standings 3 points behind the Washington Capitals. And that was Friday night at the end of the first period. And then something happened. They came out flat, a little bit disinterested in the second and third period. Tage Thompson takes over. The negativity was setting in all of our brains. And the Devils lose badly. Well, there were a couple empty net goals there. To the Buffalo Sabres. And I got to tell you, it sucked. It absolutely sucked. Not happy. Devils After Dark. I wasn't happy. I want every single coach fired at this point. That's how I felt Friday night. My first choices would be either to poach Rod Brind'Amour out of Carolina, which is not going to happen, or you bring in Bruce Boudreau, but with the stipulation that Scott Stevens would be back at the bench for your New Jersey Devils. I was very mad. I was very, very mad at the situation Friday night. After all the help that they got on Thursday night. Friday night, the only game in town, or only game action throughout the NHL, were the Devils and Sabres, and the Devils lose. Not to the fault of Jake the Snake Allen, but just the collapse, it's infuriating that the Devils can't move the needle. So last night, let's go over some of the scores last night, because the Devils did get some help here. Now, I have been saying all along that if the Devils were to make the playoffs, now, I have to preface this because all the trolls out there online are going to say, woo, they're not going to make the playoffs, because I'm reading your tweets. They're telling me to stop with my tweets about the kind of help that the Devils would need to get. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as they're mathematically in the race, there's still a chance, even though it's not a very good one. But let's look at last night's scores around the league, because the Devils did get some help. Florida Panthers, 3-2 victory over the Red Wings. Red Wings getting the point because it went to a shootout. Panthers winning that game. So the Devils got a little bit of help there as the Red Wings are in the race for that last playoff spot. Maple Leafs winning 3-0 over the Buffalo Sabres. Yes, they could thank the New Jersey Devils for wearing them out. Just kidding. The BJs, the Blue Jackets, beating the Penguins 4-3 in a shootout. Penguins getting a point. But the Blackhawks, Vinny Parisi from Chicago, those Blackhawks winning 5-1 over the Philadelphia Flyers was a big victory, an upset. And the Flyers are continuing to nosedive. They got a 6'7", 6'8" goaltender out of the KHL. It doesn't matter. They are nosediving like the crash of the stock market in 1929, like the 2008 housing bubble. They are imploding, the Philadelphia Flyers, as we speak. And the math still works for the New Jersey Devils as they continue their inconsistency, but somehow the Devils get help. Tampa Bay Lightning, 4-1 victory over Lou Lamoriello's New York Islanders. Patrick Waugh probably not happy with the Lightning putting 40 shots on goal. No answer. The big bad Boston Bruins, I wouldn't say this is a little bit of help because Washington is now third in the Metropolitan Division. Get a point. Big bad Boston Bruins beating the Capitals 3-2 as well. Devils actually getting help, which we kind of predicted as well. Last night, on a Saturday night of lots of hockey, as the Devils are hopefully resting, practicing. And somehow, the Devils are still in it. They're still in it. Are they going to make the playoffs? No, probably not. But as long as they're still in it and mathematically in it, we're going to have to figure this thing out because they got a big week. There is no room for the Devils if they were going to try to make the playoffs now. They may have one mulligan left, which means a loss. And it's probably going to come in the hands of Andrew Burnett's Nashville Predators if the Devils were going to make the playoffs, because the Predators are in a different conference. Doesn't affect the standings. But that's all they have left, really, the Devils. Maybe one more mulligan left. But they got to run the table. We got to pick up our tables and run with it. Because the goaltending has been there as of late for the New Jersey Devils. The offense, Timo Meier has been on fire, but he needs to, again, carry the load. Didn't get on the score sheet against Buffalo. Didn't score. But right now, they play the Penguins on Tuesday, the Rangers on Wednesday, which should be a statement game for the New Jersey Devils. I want to see grit and toughness. But if the Devils can build up the momentum, they would go into the weekend against Ottawa in Ottawa and then at home against Nashville. It's going to be a tough battle. And if the Devils can run the table and go 4-0, it will put them in position and relevancy towards the last week of the season. I don't think it's going to happen, but it could. And here's why. You look at the standings right now. Washington, third place in the Metropolitan Division with 82 points. After that point that they gained last night. The Philadelphia Flyers, also with 82 points, but 75 games played versus Washington's 73. They are now the last wild card spot in the Eastern Conference. Detroit Red Wings, 2 points behind with 74 games played against behind the Flyers with 80 points. The Islanders with 77 points with 73 games played. And then the Devils with 76 points, 74 games played, with the Devils actually holding the tiebreaker with all these teams. So, here we go. Here is how the Devils are going to make the playoffs. And again, I'm going to say this this is a path that they're going to have to take. I'm not saying that they're making the playoffs because everyone thinks I'm nuts for even mentioning it, but it is possible. I've said all along that the Devils are going to make the playoffs via the Flyers. They need to nosedive. They are nosediving right now. They are just heading straight down the standings right now. If that were to continue, they would have to leapfrog the Islanders, who have one game in hand against the Devils. But we still have that Devils-Islanders game, last game of the season, which could be proved to be win and you're in Game 7 type atmosphere. April 15th at The Rock. We'll be at American Whiskey. Probably we're going to big stage it, pending the weather, at American Whiskey. The Red Wings, they would need to continue to lose. They also played 74 games. Devils are 4 points behind the Red Wings. But the Flyers, looks like the Tampa Bay Lightning are in because they got 89 points. They're way ahead right now, and they're doing, let's just say, they're on a 3-game winning streak. They're on a 3-game heater. But the Flyers have played 75 games. Devils have 1 game in hand. Assuming that the Devils do win that game, that really puts them 4 points behind. Plus, you play the Flyers on April 13th at Wells Fargo Center. Again, pivotal game. If the Devils win that outright, they're really, again, if all these magical things happen, 2 points behind the Flyers as they're nosediving right now. It is certainly possible that the Devils could make the playoffs. Here lies the problem. They're not helping themselves. 2-game heater, 1 step back. 2-game heater, 1 step back. And each step that they're taking back is getting more demoralizing as the regular season comes to a close. I don't even know why I'm even here talking about playoffs right now. But can the Devils resurrect themselves? I'll ask again. Can the Devils resurrect themselves in the month of April? Can they put it all together? And I estimate 1 mulligan, 1 loss the rest of the way. That's a good question. 7 games left. 14 points on the table. It just seems like nobody in the Metropolitan Division, or at least in the Eastern Conference, wants to make the playoffs the way that they've been playing. That last spot, it's going to take what the Florida Panthers did last season to kick some ass. I don't think the Devils they just don't seem motivated. They seem sometimes that the nails in the coffin, they're down on themselves, but they got to finish. Jake Allen's actually giving them a chance. You can even make the argument that Kaapo Kähkönen is giving them a chance. Goaltending at the moment is not the problem. It's the undisciplined plays on defense. Lack of physical presence in front of the net at times. It's sometimes Jekyll and Hyde where they're looking so good like they did against Buffalo, playing down to their opponents and then losing it at the end of the game. This is not a playoff team right now. But this could be all in the past if they can start winning now. They got to help themselves, the New Jersey Devils. They're getting all the help. The hockey gods are practically handing the season, the playoffs, on a silver platter to the New Jersey Devils, and they are just dropping it. Oleg said it best. The Devils aren't Florida. They don't have a Tkachuk type of a player. But they need to figure it out. Or at least for the next 8 games or whatever, how many games left to be a Tkachuk type player. They need to make sacrifices. Timo Meier's doing it right now. They need more out of Palat. He's got to do better, especially when he's making that $6 million AAV a year. Jesper Bratt's got to be above and beyond. Jack Hughes, you got to stop turning over the puck. You got to make the simple plays. Don't overdo it, Jack. I'm begging you. And you can pass to somebody else other than your brother. Luke, you got to keep shooting the puck. Forget about the percentages. Just keep shooting, Luke. And good things will happen. Kevin Ball, you got to do better. You got to use that gift you have of the long reach, size. You got to get tough out there. The goalies are giving you a chance at the stretch. I didn't think that they could when Tom Fitzgerald made those trades before the trade deadline. Kähkönen was supposed to be a salary dump for Vitek Vanacek. Jake Allen's supposed to be for next year, trying out for a 1B scenario. Both goalies are giving you a chance. Take it, for crying out loud. But can the Devils resurrect themselves? We will know this week. When you play the Pittsburgh Penguins, you got to put them away. Next game, you got to make a statement. Physically, mentally, and on the scoreboard against the New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden. Travis Green, if you have to, bring up the beef. First shift, face-off, just like they did in 2012. Kick their ass. You got to motivate this team. Because you got to snap out of this funk. The hockey gods are aligning it, but you got to help yourselves by winning, and winning in regulation. Survey says get Woo in the locker room. I've said it all the time. If the Devils organization gave me 15 minutes pregame, maybe some 5 minutes intermission, and maybe some postgame, I could get this team fired up. But they don't look fired up. They look distracted. They look sometimes disheveled. They look not confident. But you've got everything in front of you at the moment. Jake the Snake Allen is playing like a Vezina Trophy winning goaltender right now. Sure, he's made a couple mistakes, but that's just a couple. He rebounds. It's, you can't expect a goalie to be perfect all the time, but when Jake the Snake makes a mistake or he gives up a soft goal, he comes back with 50 spectacular saves, and that's what I'm looking for in a 1B or any goaltender at this point. Dubs is like, seal the tube, Sam. They are done. I know they're done. Because as of now, I don't see this team has the passion, has the will to win, play a full 60, 65, or even shootout type hockey right now. All I'm saying is the chances are there, and they're still there. But after this week, we will find out. Could it be April 13th and April 15th against the Flyers and the Islanders? Are the Devils going to be relevant for a spot? They can control their own destiny if they take care of business this week. Plus, they got to play the Toronto Maple Leafs not once, but twice. At least they're not on consecutive nights. But we will see. Are we playing a meaningful game on April 13th or April 15th? And if we are, we'll have it covered here on the Let's Go Devils podcast and American Whiskey. Let's just hope we're still alive. You got to play that Bee Gees song every morning. As this is actually a Morning Woo edition of the Woo Report. Well, I hope everybody has a happy Easter today. Hopefully you're listening to this in the car ride to grandma's or your parents or your cousin's house or wherever you may be. Can the Devils resurrect themselves? That is the question of the day. And you can find me on Twitter at PrimetimeSamWoo. You can find the podcast at Let's Go Devils Pod. Facebook at Let's Go Devils Podcast. Our YouTube channel, subscribe at Let's Go Devils. And on Twitch at Let's Go Devils Podcast as well. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, dropping the podcast in about 20 minutes for your ride to Easter dinner. And Ted, forget about the Mets. I don't want to talk about the Mets yet because technically the Devil season is not over yet. Like I told someone yesterday, I'm about to quit sports. All my teams suck right now. But can they resurrect? Can they turn it around? Do we need to play that duet of Arlette and Shorts Guy singing "Turn Around"? I don't know. We shall see. Keep it positive, folks. Join ourcrew.com. Drink some Man Crew brew. Till next time, this is the Woo Report. Let's go Devils!